Today we will be starting a new topic of ecdysozoa, or in which we will be discussing about the arthropods. And we will be introducing the topics that we are going to cover in the series of the next topics. So what are the arthropods? The arthropods are the organisms such as lobsters, spider, beetles, and trilobites. Lobster you see in the marine environment. Spiders are present in maybe in a household or maybe in some different environments, maybe in some jungles. Or the beetles, which are normally present everywhere, and these are the most diverse group of the insects. And the trilobites, which are extinct now, but these are the ancient arthropods that had dominated the earlier life forms. The arthropod have legs, a segmented body plan with jointed appendages, and ability to molt. Arthropods. The arthro comes from the jointed and pods means the leg. So arthropod are the organism with the jointed legs. And this group is called ecdysozoa. From why do we call it ecdysozoa? From ek, that means out or off, and join means to put. So put out something. Why do we call these organisms ecdysozoa? Because these are the animals. Zoa means the animals. So these are the animals which are molting. That means they have the exoskeleton and they make a new exoskeleton underneath the outer smaller exoskeleton, which have become smaller, and it does not accomplish the need of the organism. So what do? They make a new skeleton beneath that older skeleton, and that older skeleton burst and they come out of that. And because they come out of the older skeleton, that's why these are called ecdysozoa. The first major fauna was present during early Cambrian, and these were, if we see these fossils, these organisms look very bizarre. And but these are not very much different to the insects that we see today. If we see the morphologically, their segments, their different body parts, these are not pretty much different from the earlier life form that have inhabited the earth. So arthropods, like animals, were present in the Ediacara biota. That means these group of animals have ancient origins. And then there comes the trilobite. So early Cambrian and during the Paleozoic, there was the establishment of another biota, the biota of trilobites. So what are the trilobites? The trilobites these are sort of ancient insect-like organisms. They evolved advanced visual systems. That means they had some primitive, in our sense, these are the primitive eyes, but they had some visual system through which they could visualize their environment. And the enrollment structures, that mean they can enroll themselves. They can form some role-like structure to protect themselves in order to pursue a variety of benthic and pelagic lifestyle. So these are the organisms which were living in the ocean bottoms, and these are the arthropods. They had the benthic as well as the pelagic. That means they were living not inside the bottom of the ocean, but also they were in the surface waters. They were away from the shore as well. So chelicerates and eupterides, these are included in the largest arthropods, and they patrolled the marine marginal environment during the Silurian and Devonian period. So these are the organisms. Eupterides are also called the ocean scorpions. And then there are the Mediapods. These are the earliest terrestrial body fossils in the mid-Ordovician. So all the other organisms that we have seen before, these were oceanic. They were living in the ocean. And as we have seen that most of the organisms have origins in the ocean, and they were living in the ocean. So these were the first arthropods that have inhabited the terrestrial environment during the mid-Ordovician. And there are the tracks of euthydcarcinoids. It is as a stem group of the mandibulates, the organisms which are having the strong mandibles. That shows that these moved onto the land even earlier, that is during the late Cambrian. So not only these organisms were present during the mid-Ordovicians, but during the late Cambrian, there were some other organisms which have inhabited the terrestrial environment already. And then there comes the insects. Insects first appeared during the early Devonian, and they diversified rapidly. There are probably 10 million species, or the living species of the insects. The insects had probably already evolved flight before the mid-Carboniferous, when giant dragonflies patrolled the forest. So we will be discussing about the insecta and how did they evolve into the flight structures. This was the first time an organism was able to fly. And the crustaceans, they include many familiar groups such as crabs, lobster, and shrimps. These are the crustaceans, or normally think of it that these are the insects of the sea. But that is very crude language. We cannot say that. But these are the crustaceans, and they are also having the other group of organisms just like barnacles and ostracods. So how can we study all of these topics? We can study these topics with the rich history of fossil record that we have today. The insects have exoskeleton. That means they are able to, and sometimes that exoskeleton is calcified as well. Or arthropods in turn are having the calcified exoskeleton as well. So if that is present, that means they have better chances of preservation, and we have very rich fossil record. And there are some exceptionally preserved fossil faunas of Cambrian, Burgess shell, and Chengjiang and Sirius posset. These are well-preserved fossil faunas of the arthropods that we can study and see that, and these are very much able to tell us that what sort of environment those arthropods were living, and also how the life changes during the different periods of the time in the history of life.